Thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm Angelique Medina.
And I'm Alex Cruz-Farmer.
And today we're going to unveil two new innovations designed to help organizations see and improve the digital experiences of their workforces, wherever in the world their teams are. Because wherever they are fundamentally dependent on the internet to connect to applications, and through applications, connect to each other and to customers. Now, that may have been true 2 years ago, but the degree to which we've deepened our dependence on the tens of thousands of networks that make up the internet and the many, many SaaS applications that have become an integral part of our work lives has reached a point where there is no going back. The past status quo no longer even makes sense, since we've now all fully embraced the immediacy and new possibilities of doing business in the digital world, which also means the freedom to do business from anywhere in the world. Alex, you and I were just talking about how even our perception of time has changed.
Absolutely. If you think way back when, we were all using dial-up modems. They would take ages to connect and there wouldn't really be much bandwidth. The World Wide Web as we knew it back then is totally unimaginable to the younger generations today. Telling them that our phones were literally just there to make calls and the battery could last weeks on a single charge just leaves them stunned. But what really hits home is the fact that to download an image of today's standards would have taken almost 7 to 10 minutes via dial-up. But here we are today, where a single render of even a basic web page could equate to the same amount of bandwidth as you could have used in a single session back in the day. It's absolutely astonishing. Back then, the building blocks of digital efficiency, when it came to employees, was all down to their device. It was everything. It's memory, CPU, storage. But now times have changed, and the technology has evolved to a place where with just a bare bones laptop, with a web browser, or even a mobile phone, gets you access to hundreds of thousands of sophisticated and interconnected applications over the internet, regardless of where you are in the world.
And you can do that confidently and securely over the internet and in the cloud with solutions like Secure Edge and Zero Trust. So for the business and its workers, everything is quite literally just a few finger taps away. But then all of a sudden, IT had to deal with something totally unpredictable, something they had no playbook for, something that was completely outside of their established paradigm, and that was the loss of control. So overnight, for many organizations, their entire workforces began working from home, turning their homes into a branch of one. So IT moved from managing business-grade infrastructure and an environment under their control to supporting users in environments that they had no say in, connecting over networks that they couldn't see, and they were trying to do this on a scale they never had to do before.
Exactly. This shift was so rapid and unexpected that most organizations had no playbook for this, so they had to learn on the fly. A lot of organizations were initially blind because many of the tools and processes that they may have had in their office environments no longer were relevant in this new world. Many IT teams had to use a triage-based model, dealing with the most critical issues first, and then everything else based on a case-by-case basis, which became extremely time-consuming. Each time a ticket was picked up by IT, the engineer had to decipher the end user's symptoms based on the information that they'd been provided. But it ultimately ended up with the IT engineer having to try and diagnose issues either over the phone or through remotely connecting to a user's device. But of course, that can only take you so far, and it really doesn't scale well.
Right, and many organizations had workers that were in customer-facing roles. So, they may have been call center agents who were primarily using latency-sensitive voice applications, and they were dealing with calls cutting in and out or dropping completely, and they had no way to effectively manage this because beyond the worker's device, they could only just guess at the problem.
Obviously, that's a serious issue if you're impacting not only your customer experience, but also wasting a lot of IT cycles on problems that you just can't identify.
The good news is that these organizations didn't need to settle for flying blind, or just going off of lagging indicators that told them that workers had a poor experience for an app yesterday, instead of telling them what the problem was as it was happening so they could fix it before it impacted productivity. As Mohit was telling us earlier, even before the pandemic, organizations were leveraging ThousandEyes endpoint across their workforce for exactly this issue. They had already moved to a flexible work model where they needed to support customer support agents working out of their homes, and ThousandEyes offered a way for them to do that confidently and build repeatable processes for supporting a workforce that could really be anywhere. So when thousands of organizations around the globe were overnight dealing with this same situation, we knew that we would be able to help them regain the visibility and effectively the control that they had lost. So right away, starting in the early days of the pandemic and well into 2020, we enabled organizations to roll out ThousandEyes Endpoint to their workforce at no cost because we knew that time was critical and we needed to support our IT colleagues so they could effectively support the needs of their organizations.
With ThousandEyes, organizations were able to immediately get end-to-end visibility of the complete digital supply chain. So not only could they see the health of a user's device, but they could also see the health of their network connectivity, including the state of their Wi-Fi, the latency to their gateway, all the way across the internet to the application, helping them pinpoint exactly where the issues were.
This was a game changer for our customers because it enabled them to get the visibility that they so critically needed. Now they were able to shift from being blind to proactively able to identify issues at both a micro and macro level, whether it was a single user issue or a more widespread regional problem like a service provider outage. They could turn to ThousandEyes to identify it. So I think the bottom line is that when it came to supporting all of these distributed workers, all of these branches of one, IT needed to see the full picture from end to end for every worker. They needed to see their connections and experience for every application. And that information needed to be available in real time for the many stakeholders that had a hand in supporting the business.
Exactly. It wasn't just the IT teams that needed this visibility. It was the application teams, the collaboration teams, the network teams, the list goes on. All of these teams are responsible for providing a solid service for their end users. Because as we know, the issue could be anywhere across this extremely complex digital supply chain.
You talked earlier about dial-up. Simple web pages, they don't require a lot of bandwidth. They're not particularly latency sensitive. But now applications are rich, interactive, real-time, and involve a level of performance that enables us to all put, quite literally, our best self forward.
Absolutely. 10 or 15 years ago, applications were all about having dedicated data centers, globally distributed in strategically placed locations, core basically where their user base was. The problem was that these were super expensive and very time intensive to build, expensive to maintain, and often were really challenging to scale quickly. But today, CDNs and cloud providers have completely revolutionized the way that apps are built. The problem now is that that introduces a ton of extra complexity.
Absolutely. And networks have also evolved to optimize their connectivity to the cloud. So that might mean leveraging secure edge services, for example. The bottom line is that there's less control. You have more stakeholders responsible, and you're dealing with a haystack of interconnected services for every single application.
Exactly. Let's talk about that haystack. Take, for example, what's involved when you initiate a meeting through Cisco WebEx. There's a lot that happens behind the scenes. Let's use Angelique and I as an example. When we have a meeting together, we're most likely going to be remote, with me in the UK and Angelique based here in the US. When we open up our app and join a meeting, within seconds we're online. But what we don't see is what really happens underneath the hood. Before we connect to the meeting, WebEx performs a bunch of tests from our devices to their global data centers and picks the fastest ones available to us. So for Angelique, it may be San Jose or Vegas, and for me in the UK, it could be London or Amsterdam. But all of these decisions are made within a matter of seconds. And depending on what we're doing in that meeting, for example, like screen sharing, we may end up being connected to multiple data centers, which could even be in different regions. And let's say later that day, we had another meeting, except this time I'm in a different location. The WebEx app takes care of everything for me and makes sure I connect to the best data center available at that time within seconds. Just think, this is just one of the many applications that we run on our devices on a daily basis. The complexity and engineering involved to deliver as close to perfect experience is really not something to be underestimated.
Right, and all of this complexity takes place under the hood, which is a good thing. But the problem is that it moves too fast for IT to keep up with. The only way to keep up is to automatically provide visibility under the hood, in real time and at scale, so IT can see every connection for every session, for every user. Which brings us to the first of two new innovations we're announcing today. Because apps like WebEx and Microsoft Teams and Zoom are critical to how your workers reach one another, and similarly, call center apps like Genesys and AWS Connect are critical to how your workers reach your customers. We're doing something really cool, an industry first, the ability to get real-time visibility into every connection for every critical application session for every single one of your users. We're really excited about this one because it's something that no one has solved for. and it's designed to bring unprecedented insights into the collaboration app and call center app performance that you so critically rely on.
That's right. ThousandEyes is introducing automated session testing. Our vision was to provide a way for our customers to tell us what applications were critical to their business and what groups of users needed to be monitored. The most important part was removing the need for our customers to have to excavate every single one of the many dynamic connections that are created when an application or session starts. And that's because every application or session could be radically different. And there's no simple way for IT to dig into each individual session when a user has an issue to figure out what's going on. So what we've done is firstly close that visibility gap by testing the connection to the destination host on the fly. And secondly, because it's all automatic, IT can identify rapidly issues that crop up for users directly from our dashboard. We've also built it in such a way that there's no noise. We'll only monitor an application when it's being used, so you only get alerted when there's a real problem affecting a worker. So you can cut down on unnecessary alerts for problems that aren't affecting the digital experience of your users. For our initial launch, we're focusing on Cisco WebEx, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. We chose collaboration apps to start with, as they've become one of the most important apps that we use on a day-to-day basis. But most of all, they can also be the most sensitive. With automated session testing, we're providing visibility into the end-to-end digital supply chain for these apps. Let me show you just how easy it is to get started. All we have to do is select the collaboration or call center application we want to monitor. Then, select the users you want to apply this to, and done. Simple as that. Once a user starts a meeting now, we'll automatically identify the connections created by that application and begin mapping it to the network path and performance to those endpoints. Let's check this out in action. Here are the network paths between my laptop and WebEx for just a single meeting I recently had. Notice how there were 3 unique sessions, and these 3 unique network paths are created during the meeting. One for voice, one for video, and one for screen sharing. We have these multiple paths because WebEx splits up each of the elements that I just mentioned of the meeting into 3 individual sessions, which all connect to their own respective media nodes. And in this case, we can see that not all of the sessions are connected to the same data center. From here, we can have full end-to-end visibility of my device, my Wi-Fi, my local ISP, all the way through the parts of the WebEx network, all the way through to that media node, making it very straightforward to identify issues as they arise. One of the coolest parts of automated session testing is the way we detect connections. When I join another WebEx meeting, it's not guaranteed that I'm going to be connected to the London data center like I did earlier on. As we can see here for this meeting, I was sent to a completely different data center, and it was totally transparent to me as a WebEx user. The good news is that IT doesn't need to worry about tracking any of this because all this discovery and mapping of connectivity is all done on their behalf. We can also correlate and identify common network points across multiple users. For example, let's say we have multiple users in the same meeting who are having an issue. What we can do is filter down to that meeting and see all the participants for that call. From here, we can see if there are any common network points which could help us identify why a group of users are impacted at the same time, all via the ThousandEyes dashboard. In this example, I may have been able to see that within the WebEx Control Hub platform, that a particular WebEx meeting was having a problem. But if it's something outside of WebEx, I won't know why. And that's where ThousandEyes comes in, filling that gap, giving you that visibility into the digital supply chain directly from the user's device all the way through to WebEx. With this new data now available to IT teams, it will help to dramatically improve the management and communication around performance issues. No need to deal with that ambiguity with providers and internal teams about whose fault is it and who's going to fix it. You can now pinpoint exactly where the problems are, who's responsible, and share that information via our interactive snapshots so you have the information and the evidence you need to collaborate across internal teams and external teams as well.
This is such a powerful game changer for ensuring the health of real-time collaboration application performance because it cuts through all of the complexity under the hood and gives IT the clearest, most precise view of each and every session so they know what and where to go to keep users connected and engaged. Starting today, with automated session testing, you can get automatic and actionable visibility into the health of every session for Cisco WebEx, Microsoft Teams, and Zoom. This is available to all endpoint customers at no extra cost, so you can get started today. But that's not all. We've also built a brand new view specifically designed for frontline service and help desks to gain an all-in-one view of the health of a user's digital experience, so they can immediately isolate and either fix or work with other IT teams to resolve issues. Our new agent view helps IT teams immediately see a snapshot of digital health and spot anomalies which could be impacting the user's experience. Let's take a look at Alex's digital health. Here we can see the current and historical performance of his device, as well as his network connectivity, including Wi-Fi, VPN, and Secure Edge. We can also see the health of all of the applications that Alex connects to on a daily basis. Further down, we can also see automated session tests for WebEx that Alex talked about earlier. Also, we can see some of the SaaS-based applications that he connects to through his web browser. Now, you may have noticed that Alex has seen issues across many of the applications he's connecting to. And speaking of connection, I can see that his Wi-Fi signal quality is dropped. So just within a few seconds, I know his Wi-Fi is impacting his digital experience, a problem that he could solve himself if only he knew the issue. So as you can see, combining these innovations together, we can help your frontline teams quickly and confidently identify and even resolve issues within minutes rather than hours.
And this is just a small part of all of the things that we're doing to deliver innovative solutions to help our customers support the people, infrastructure, and applications that are the foundation of their businesses. Whether that's Internet Insights, which leverages our massive data set to deliver insights into application outages as well as internet outages, or end-to-end visibility into digital supply chain issues. Regardless of where your teams are based, whether they're at home, on the road, in the office, Thousand Eyes gives you visibility you can act on for your applications, your people, and your infrastructure.
And we do all of this in real time across the internet, SaaS applications, and the cloud. This is really about seizing the digital day, not operating on lagging indicators that tell you that your workforce had a problem with an application yesterday, but with real-time insight, not just to see, but to act, to solve problems and have the insight to proactively improve workforce experience.
So many of our customers have been on this journey with us, and you're going to hear from several of them today and how they were able to navigate this new way of working, not just maintaining the status quo, but raising the bar on the digital experience of their workforce. So ultimately, their organizations could thrive in this new world.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
And we really hope you enjoy the rest of the event.